Okay, here goes. Through this pump, and we have, with high pressure, we operate at pressures of 270 bars. That's about 4,000 psi, just to get you an idea. And so we pump this with a very high pressure, this gas, through the vessel where the biomass sits in, and then with the biomass, you solve the CBD oil or the cannabinoids. You put it into solution, and then you have to imagine it's like a gas. You go over to a vaporizer and you change pressure and temperature, and it releases the oil. That's a trick. So it's just by changing gas temperature and pressure, it releases the oil, and we have here a light fraction, and then we have a called heavy fraction, and then it releases the different cannabinoids and terpenes, depending on how you have set it up, and then it goes back into the condenser and back in the receiver tank, and it goes around again. So it is a fairly simple process. The beauty of it is, and that's what differentiates us to ethanol or to other mediums where you can extract with, is it is very precise. You can very precisely dial in parameters of collecting and releasing cannabinoids. And I will address this later into more detail because it makes a difference, especially for those plants coming. You know, this is just the beginning. You know, the CBD, what we have today, the CBG, which we have planted last year, and the plants which are coming the next year that require an ongoing adjustment of the parameters. Otherwise, you leave money on the table. Otherwise, you cannot dial in what you want to have. And this is the uniqueness of our machine with our process, that we can dial in and change the solving power and the penetration time very precisely by changing the temperature or the pressure or the flow rate, extraction time. And I will give you in the later couple of examples what we can do with this. And here you can see it. By changing pressure, this is MPa, I'm sorry about this. This is 300 bars, this is about 4,000 psi, just to give you an idea. And this is Celsius, so this is 50 Celsius, it's above 120 F. So this is the window we are operating in. So the supercritical CO2 extraction is done for 30 years with all kinds of biomaterial, used very much so for hemp, here schoolhouse beer, not hemp for hops. Hops, very much established for hops. And it is very established and used for lavender and decaffeinating coffee, right? So there's a lot of use for supercritical extraction. So there is nothing fancy, nothing new. It is a very proved process. And more so, and that is important also to look forward, it is a process which is commonly used in the pharmaceutical industry. So it is a proved process, established process, and you can dial it in to extract those exact lipids or the cannabinoids or what you exactly want. You can dial it in what you like to put into solution and when and what you like to release. It's called a fraction. So this is, we are working actually in a smaller window than this, but this should just give you the idea about the possibilities. And here you have this applied to hemp, and you see this is the entire ingredient of a plant. And there's a lot of stuff you don't want, and a little bit you want. As a matter of fact, the trichomes. This is what you want, but you're cutting, as my friend Eric always says, you're cutting the whole tree to get the apples. And the apples are the trichomes here. This is what we want, and but it's too difficult to pick them by themselves. So we take it the whole plant and chop them up, and then we have to fight with the rest and need to separate it in the way that we only get terpenes and cannabinoids. And that's what we can do with supercritical CO2, that we get exactly this only out. So, as said, we can chop up the whole plant, that's how it looks, but we need to grind it, and the better the intake, of course, the better the outcome. So if we put in a ratio